Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Katie, it's you and I today. But we have a lot of information. Unfortunately, John is on assignment, so we're going to miss his great insight, and Lance has the day off. So, Katie and I will do our best to meet your expectations. And looking at the numbers, we have a huge crowd, so thank you very much. There are the certificates. I think we all know about those. Download those. And here are the questions. Number one, what number of PPP forgiveness applications pending, pending, get rid of the in. Let me start again. How many of your apps does SBA have that they're holding over 90 days? How's that sound? And this is a question that came in from, I think it was Jerome. So thank you very much for that. And he was complaining that they have a lot. Yeah, over 20%. I'm glad to see that zero number, and the rest are populated pretty evenly. But that is too bad, Katie, on that. 1 in 5 or over 90 days. I mean, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, and some of that might also depend on the type or the loan amount for these loans. I can imagine those ones over $2 million. I've heard they're barely touched, so it's likely some of those are going a little slower.
Yeah. And Lance has said, when you have something, I would say over 90 days, I would contact SBA. I don't have that email. There is a specific SBA email, PPP forgiveness email, that you can follow up with these. Also check the 1502s to make sure that you have all of the updated information. Check your dashboards, your portal, so that there are ways that you can go about that. But I have no issue, especially over 90 days, say, hey, what's going on? Are we missing something on that? So thank you very much for those responses. Number two, and we'd like to do take a step back and look where we are. And over the year, what do you think? And we're talking specifically 7A secondary market prices. Katie, how'd they do?
I actually don't know off the top of my head, so that would be a surprise for me.
All right. Joseph, let's go to the next slide. We'll bail you out here. We'll bail you out. There we go. They're about the same, a little bit higher. They're about the same. Beginning of the year, they were 150. Now, this is full boat. This is a 25-year loan at full term, and we know those are few and far between, but it gives a indication what the entire market was doing. It dropped middle of 2020. Joseph, I believe that was when? That was probably, April, right after this the pandemic hit? Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, the fall was April, May, and the recovery was July and August.
You see the recovery, and then it's down a little bit. So it's about the same. And we put this chart for your budgeting purposes for next year. Obviously, we're going to have the secondary summit. Bob Judge is going to talk about that. But just to take a step back, the things that impact secondary market prices are two items, and really it's prepayments. But there's two types of prepayments. One is there's a default, and number two is the prepayment of the loan has been refinanced out, and that especially is common in these loans, these 25-year loans. The problem that Bob Judge is crunching numbers is what's going to happen when all these deferments stop, or when all the payments stop, and then we have deferments and liquidations and whatever. So we're going to be tracking that very carefully. I know the regulators are looking at that, and you should have someone in your bank modeling your portfolios, and I'm sure you do on that. Very good. Number three, and the reason why I came up with this question, Katie, is back in the Great Recession, SBA had a program where they guaranteed the first of the 504. It was FMLP. Don't ask me what the acronym stands for, but something about first mortgage, something. And I had an interesting conversation with Ami Kassar yesterday. I interviewed for his podcast. And I was saying, he was asking me, what changes do we need to SBA in terms of what I call PPP 2.0, or the second stimulus? I said, make it simple. I said, one of the biggest things you can do is this, and 72% of the industry agree with me, is where you can guarantee that first, And then obviously you could sell that to the secondary market as well. So I think, and that's a great program. It's a low cost program. Katie, I will tell you the other two things that I suggested was let's raise that guarantee rate, but also get rid of the fees to the borrowers. I think it doesn't make sense that we're charging these. I think 3% is an exorbitant fee. Now, what other proposals are you hearing out there, Katie?
For 504, I'm not hearing as much. For 7A, there is some movement on increasing that guarantee and things like that. So I don't know what's going to happen with 504.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen with 7A.
That's true. We don't know. Yeah, I'm just heard about them discussing increasing the guarantee on that one.
Yeah, I'm out of the prognostication game. Just when we think we have it. Well, let's talk about what's going on in Washington, Katie. While there's, on one hand, we read these stories of blockage and gridlock, there's also a very solid movement on getting this done. Again, I love that quote from yesterday, that's stupidity on steroids if Congress can't get that done. So anyway, what's going on? What are these two proposals that were introduced in the Senate yesterday?
Well, this one was introduced a little while ago, but we finally got a lot more details on it. I believe Rubio finally released the final draft of all the details. And this one's been out since September, so we've really been waiting on these. It's basically saying that they want a second draw for PPP. They're also going to allow people who did not receive a PPP loan to receive one, but there are some restrictions, and it's prioritizing people with or businesses with less than 10 employees. So there are some set-asides there for that. Maximum loan size would only be $2 million on these. It expands some forgivable expenses and simplifies the forgiveness application process for loans under $150,000.
Which is huge. That's a huge one. Yeah.
The other big issue that this one really addresses is that EIDL advance would not be subtracted from PPP forgiveness. So this one covers a lot of those issues that we've been talking about on the show. That we've seen some of the trade group letters on, so it is addressing a lot of those issues. It's not got as much following, though, as the next one that just came out the other day. That bill is more bipartisan and has a little bit more support, but we don't have a lot of details on that one, aside from there's a second draw for PPP, additional funding for EIDL, and additional aid for restaurants and live entertainment venues. Which was already the previous one. This one just has a lot more bipartisan support, a lot bicameral support in this case.
See, we need to be like our friends across the pond, and this needs to be a little bit more sexy. Second draw for PPP, and we need a top up. We need a top up for these bounce back loans. I like that much better. No,
yeah, we
but
don't
just
call here.
No, but they are talking about allowing. Obviously, there's a lot of people. What do we do? We've gone through the PPP. What do we do next? What are the metrics that we use? Do we tie it? I'm an advocate of let's make life simple. Let's don't tie it to reduction in sales or number of employees or whatever. Yeah, I understand there's got to be some metrics, but also there's some interesting things we can do. We can get 6 months worth of financial statements. That's easy. All the fintech lenders are doing that. 6 months worth of checking account statements. You're not asking the borrower to give you a financial statement, and you can do some sort of metrics on that. Obviously, you can go to the employment forms and just ask for copies of that as opposed to filling these out. So there's a lot of creative things we can do. But the consensus is, Katie, and I think you would agree with me, is this is bipartisan, and everyone is screaming that we need to have stuff done, but we just don't know how to get to the finish line.
Well, and I think it's I'm starting to feel more hopeful. I've been reading up on especially this particular framework proposal, and it sounds like it's got a lot of support. There are people who don't normally agree that are agreeing that we need to pass some version of it. So I think that it is moving, and I would hope to see something before Christmas.
Well, I mean, we all, I'm still embarrassed by my July 3rd prediction. So obviously, I'm not the best person to guess on that. Hey, this is pretty cool. This letter came through. It's dated today. I believe we have it in the chat box. Over 600 trade groups, which is fun reading those. But including on there are our friends, Asian American hotel owners, ICBA, independent community bankers, a lot of state groups, NFIB, America's SBDC, way to go, SBDCs. And what is this about, Katie?
This is a great, what I was just talking about, really. It's a great example of how much pressure there is on Congress to try to get something done for PPP. This also focuses on the tax treatment and some other things like that. So they really want to collect all of the issues that have been going on and fix it with one bill so they can quickly pass that, opposed to trying to work with one individual little bill at a time. And try to address each little piece of it. But it's a great push, over 600 trade groups. I mean, it's amazing. I was scrolling through the list of trade groups and it just keeps coming. There's a lot of people supporting this. So yeah, I think Congress is feeling the push to enact legislation right now.
Put this in context. The CARES Act is very clear. The CARES Act was passed back in April, said from April 3rd that these funds were not to be taxable, but then the IRS issued their notice that said, hey, they are taxable. And of course, the other issue are the states, that the states are going, well, wait a minute, if there's a federal money forgiveness, then we need to tax that. So, and then the letter is very clear. The effect of this ruling is to transform tax-free loan forgiveness the taxable income, raising the specter of a surprise tax increase of up to 37% on Main Street. So this is one I'm pretty sure will get overturned. The problem is it's uncertainty. It's unfair to Main Street. It's unfair to all the professionals, the CPAs, and it's unfair to you because you're trying to advise your clients on what to do. I think to hold off on applying for forgiveness until 2021 is a smart move.
All right, and we're still hearing people say that they want to have borrowers hold off. I'm hearing that from CPAs still, and some lenders are even still saying it because we just don't know how it's going to be treated. And there are whisperings about possibly having some kind of blanket forgiveness. And if that's the case, it would be far easier to fill out that one form and have blanket forgiveness.
The best analogy I heard, courtesy of Chris Hearn, is blanket forgiveness is you sign it, you attest that this information is correct, same as you do in your tax returns. You sign the tax return, you retain all the documentation, and the IRS could choose to come back and see the documentation. And I think we're advocating a similar type of thing. Got some comments. Number one, Julie, thank you very much. FMLP is the first mortgage loan pools. So you're absolutely right. Thank you for clarifying that. We should have a SBA acronym test some point in time. Right. But the point is that what the secondary market would do, they would take these first mortgages, allow them to pool them. The lenders can get them off their books for liquidity issues, which helped, and also a little income. Letitia asked, did the extension bill pass for the small business debt relief program? No, not yet. That's part of the thing, is it's still 6 months. All this stuff is up in the air, Letitia. We apologize if we are indicating that this stuff is what's going to happen. We're just presenting, at this point in time, Katie and I et al. Are presenting scenarios of what this looks like. And if there's something near and dear to your heart, again, we encourage you to reach out to your Congress person, especially if they're new. Send them a congratulatory letter, let them know, tell your borrowers to let them know that they're in business and they're hurting and they need help, and they listen to those. Barry wants to know the fee structure to lenders for the second draw. I have no clue on that.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be the same in terms of packing. Barry, we don't know. That's the answer. Corey asked the question. We talked about SOP financing. ITL are the international trade loans, and yes, we haven't really addressed it other than anything export related is a 90% loan. I love this export program. The SBA, in its wisdom, does not have a set metric where you have to have X percentage of your sales for exports. You are eligible for an export loan if you, did I say export? Export. If, for example, you are creating a new product line for exporting, that allows you to get a 90% loan. And there's Export Express. There's a number of different type of loans. But yes, if it has some sort of export component, we can go 90%. SBA has 7 or 8 export centers throughout the country. Reach out to them. I've talked to many of them. They're great people, and again, they're professionals committed to getting jobs. And the reason why the government supports exporting, it's stuff that's made here in the United States and employs American workers.
That's very true, and I've seen this program do a lot for some of those small businesses that really weren't reaching that wider span yet. It really helps those businesses grow. So I think it's a great program.
Yeah, great. We have our agenda release for 2 weeks. Jerome, this is from Jerome. You can go back, Joseph. And he's saying he had 12 loans that hit 90 days over the weekend, multiple loans at 98 days plus. So that's why we went ahead and asked that question. And Jerome, we would encourage you to reach out to the centers to find out what's going on with that. But we know obviously they're behind a little bit. This is what we're talking about. We have it over 2 days. It's going to be an hour and a half each day. You definitely want to listen to what Bob Judge has in terms of, we're talking about 2021. Then we're going to talk specifically secondary market. John Winnick is going to talk about impact of a Biden administration on SBA. Secondary market probably brought in his comments in terms of the overall SBA. Katie Roach is making her debut. She's going to talk about PPP update, congressional updates, specifically for the secondary market. And the second day, we always do an annual Hall of Fame induction. We'll talk about the 504 USDA. And finally, impact of PPP defaults. Joseph, let's change that defaults to liquidation on the secondary market. Those are key. So those are very, very, we are the only event that focuses entirely on secondary market. All the other or meetings, they may have a breakout session or whatever, but we focus exclusively on this. And we're sorry we can't take you back to Washington and have a nice time there, but I don't want to fly today. I don't think anybody else wants to. Well, first of all, our partner, Blank Rome, their offices are closed, so we can't even do that. Very good. Let's see. Katie's updated forgiveness guide. You can go back one. And we're going to make this available to everyone who attends our forgiveness webinar next Wednesday. And Katie, what do you have, 78, 95 pages on your guide these days?
Yeah, it's about 90, 95 pages, and I just recently updated it with all the information on the new forms, the new necessity questionnaires. So it walks you through how to correctly fill out those as well. But of course, it does also have the things for those of you who don't have loans over $2 million. It talks about all the IFRs. It gives you a summary of each of the forms. So it really walks you through all the policies that have passed, and it can really help you stay on track. And it's hard to keep track of all these IFRs, and I think this is a really helpful tool.
Katie's done a good job. Now, it's an unlimited site license. What that means is you can distribute it to everyone in your institution as well as your borrowers. Your borrowers, CPAs, you can give it out to whoever you want, and that's legitimate. Well, very good. Michael, do we have any more questions? Are we clear? Hey, thank you all for joining us. I know it's difficult times. I know we're all trying to hit our year-end numbers. Katie, good job. And thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.